You're watching Adam the Bull on the BetRivers Network.
Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. Check out the BetRivers app today. All kinds of things you can bet on every sporting event, including NFL futures and the NBA playoffs. And if you think you know who's going to set the tone for the game, make that bet at BetRivers, and you'll pick up an extra bonus with the first bucket bet and get. Place a wager on who will make the first basket of any NBA playoff game. When you do, BetRivers will give you a profit boost to use on another bet. See the BetRivers app for full details on the first bucket bet and get. Today's podcast is also brought to you by my cyborg eye. What is happening with my eye? Maybe some of you noticed it on Friday, but here on the podcast where I'm closer to the camera, we're get a good look at my jacked up looking eye. Yes, there is blood in my eye. No, it's not a big deal, apparently. My doctor tells me this happens once in a while. It happened to me once 2 years ago. It's a busted capillary. It clears up in a few days, apparently. But it's been 3 days. She said, as long as you're not in pain, it's fine. So I'm not in any pain. It just looks, it makes me feel like my eyes are cross-eyed. But anyway, I'm here. And if you can bear to stare at my crazy eye, then we got a lot to get to today. I have some thoughts on the Guardians, the Cavs, and the Browns here as we head into the offseason in the NBA. We're almost at the third point of the baseball season and the rare quiet season in the NFL. For the next 2 months, there's not much going on. There's OTAs and mini camps and that type of stuff. But really, for the next 2 months, you'll see very little in terms of transactions. There are some veterans still out there before training camp starts in 2 months. But I do have some thoughts on the Browns that I want to get to later. But let me start with the Guardians, who had a great weekend. Big series against the Twins. And even with that comical ninth inning, which I was worried they were going to blow this game and blow the chance to sweep the Twins, they did not after that ugly top of the ninth where they allowed the Twins to tie it up with 2 out, nobody on some I don't even know how to describe what happened in that top of the ninth. Some Little League-esque performances by a normally stellar Guardian defense. But in the end, doesn't matter. Will Brennan, a walk-off 3-run homer in the bottom of the ninth. The Guardians win the series, a 3-game sweep, 3-2, 11-4, 5-2. And it was great. They pitched well this weekend. They hit enough this weekend. And the Guardians, who seemed to be, a week ago at this time, really faltering after losing 3 of 4 to the White Sox, have now won 6 of their last 7 games, with 5 of those 6 coming against the Twins and the Rangers, 2 good teams. What's interesting now, looking forward for the Guardians, is tonight is the start of a 3-game series with the Mets. The Mets are here in Cleveland for the first time since Francisco Lindor went to the Mets. And I saw a poll. My man Ken Carmen, formerly of my old radio station there, put up a poll asking if fans are going to cheer, boo, or be indifferent about Francisco Lindor. And I was really surprised to see that, at least at the time I looked at it, I think it was 25 or somewhere between 25 and 30% of fans said they were going to boo Francisco Lindor. I don't understand this. I don't get it. A couple of weeks ago, fans got furious with me when I said a couple of, Christian Kirksey and Hollywood Higgins, I said it was silly that they were doing a retirement with the Browns. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, yeah, who cares? It's not a big deal. But people got so mad about that, about me disrespecting those players or whatever it was. And Francisco Lindor, who was a key cog of this franchise for a number of years, including a year in which they went to the World Series, which he was a big part of. And now you're going to boo him because he wanted to get paid a lot of money, or because maybe he said he didn't like being called Frankie, or, rumors about the world. I don't even know. I don't get it. He was a great Guardian when he was here, great Indian at the time. And he embraced the city at the time. He was a great spokesman at the All-Star game. He always talked to the media. I thought he was a great member of the team. I know people are frustrated that he's not here, that he went for the money. Well, blame your owner. Don't blame Lindor. And to be fair, Lindor hasn't been great with the Mets. And Andres Gimenez has frankly been just as good as Lindor. Doesn't hit as many home runs, but I mean, they've been comparable since the trade. They really have. I was screaming for years the Guardians should sign Lindor, but the truth is, I don't know if that contract's going to turn out to be very good for the Mets in the long term. So, but I'm not booing the guy. I think that's completely ridiculous. I think that's I just don't understand why anybody would boo Francisco Lindor. To me, that would be just weak. We'll talk about it more on the Guardian show also today and throughout the week. I'll be curious to see what the reaction is tonight. So anyway, tonight, tomorrow night, and then Wednesday afternoon with Lindor in town. The Cavs, it's been now, we're approaching a week since the Cavs got eliminated from the playoffs. And I know a lot of people are fired up that why haven't the Cavs fired anybody yet? Some people want the GM fired. I've kind of gone back and forth. I don't think Kobe Altman is going to get fired. In fact, I said a week ago, I believe that I think, the fact that they were as competitive as they were, maybe he keeps his job. And even though JB Bickerstaff, in my mind, should get some credit for the Boston series and the way they played, I would fire him. But, we're not sure. Dan Gilbert used to be, it was always obvious that he was running the Cavs with an iron fist. And we just don't know how he's running the team anymore since his health issues. I didn't know personally to begin with, but even the guys that cover him closely, like Chris Fedor, Jason Lloyd, Joe Varden, that cover the team closely, you just don't have a great feel for where Dan Gilbert is. I feel like if this was old Dan Gilbert, everybody would be fired already. I don't know if that's good or bad. The more I think about it, a week later, and 5 days later, the season ended 5 days ago, I think it's probably time for a fresh start for everybody. I would move on from Kobe Altman, and I would move on from JB Bickerstaff, and I would hire new guys from outside the organization. The Cavs for years have continuously fired the GM and then hired the assistant GM. In Kobe Altman's case, he was the second assistant GM. I think it's time for a fresh voice in this organization, both as a general manager and a head coach. This is a huge offseason for the Cavs. They have to, A, try to get Donovan Mitchell re-signed to an extension. B, if they can, they've got to trade Darius Garland, in my opinion, and many others. If they can't sign Donovan Mitchell, then they're in a big-time quagmire because do you want to build around Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland as your point guard? I don't know. But if Donovan Mitchell is not going to sign an extension, then you have to trade him this offseason. Now, hopefully it doesn't come to that. Meanwhile, up front, after talking with Jason Lloyd, I think it's a no-brainer that Jared Allen's got to go. So this is a massive offseason. And unless you're sure about Kobe Altman, I'm not. I don't know how Dan Gilbert feels. Unless you're sure Kobe Altman's the right guy, I think you got to move on, and you can't allow him. He has handled the last few massive off seasons in terms of rebuilding this team, and in some ways he's done a good job. He got Donovan Mitchell. We all wanted to trade, and now you've got to build the right pieces around Donovan Mitchell. First, you got to convince him to stay, or maybe convince him to stay. Maybe he doesn't have any desire to go. I don't know. But you either have to you have to sign him to an extension, and then you have to find the right pieces to put around him in addition to Evan Mobley. You have to get the right deals for Jared Allen and Darius Garland, which won't be easy. And I wouldn't leave that to Kobe Altman. I'd want to bring in somebody else. Certainly, I'd want to bring in a new head coach. It's time for a lot of change to this franchise. And I'll be curious to see how Dan Gilbert and the Cavaliers handle this. And I think the fact that nothing's happened in 5 days is not a big deal. There's time here, but it's not like the NFL or Major League Baseball where you have that long an off season. I mean, in the NBA, things happen quickly. So, um, while it's not a rush, and I don't think it's a big deal that's nothing has happened yet. Time is coming to make a decision, and it's got to happen um, before the draft and before free agency. The draft is, let's see, when is the draft again? The draft is June 26th. So you got 5 weeks, a little over 5 weeks till the draft. And then free agency starts July 1st, I believe. Yeah, July 1st. So you have a few weeks, but you don't have a ton of time. These things happen quickly. And so, again, I don't think it's a rush. I think if you're going to make changes, you want them to happen in the next week or two, but before June, because you want to give the new GM, some time to have a feel for who he's got here, what moves he can make here, what you want to do in terms of changing this team, because there's a lot that has to be done. So I think it'll happen if these things are going to happen sooner rather than later. Again, if I had to bet right now, I'd say JB is fired before the end of the month and Kobe Altman keeps his job is my guess. But again, the more I think about it, I would probably make changes to both. Now it's up to Dan Gilbert to see what he wants to do. As for the NBA playoffs, for those who may still be interested, we're down to the Final Four. Great job by Minnesota last night, coming back down 20 to beat the defending champion Nuggets. So we'll have a new champion for the 6th straight year, I believe, since the Warriors. No, more than that. The Celtics are a 9.5-point favorite over Indiana after the Pacers beat the Knicks yesterday. Pathetic effort by the Knicks. I don't want to hear about injuries. Nobody wants to hear that. Celtics up a 9.5-point favorite in Game 1 tomorrow of the Eastern Conference Final at home. And the Timberwolves are a 4.5-point favorite over Dallas in Game 1 of the Western Conference Final Wednesday. They're almost down to the Final Four in the NHL. For those who may be interested, the Oilers and Canucks play Game 7 of that series tonight. The winner of that will go on to play Dallas in the Western Conference Finals. And then the Panthers and the Rangers play Game 1 on Wednesday night. The Panthers are a road favorite in that series. So there you go. All right, let's go to the Browns. So I'm thinking about this Browns offense and what they're going to try to be in this upcoming season. The Browns have a lot of depth all over the place. They've got a number of probably 7, 8 guys on the offensive line that could potentially start. They've got, if once Nick Chubb is healthy, you've got 3 or 4 legitimate running backs. Tight end, not as deep. And I wouldn't be shocked if they tried to bring in another veteran, but that might be a position where they want to go young behind David Njoku. They have one veteran, obviously. They've got, good talent at wide receiver, not elite, but good talent at wide receiver. And so I think about this offense with Ken Dorsey in the mix and working with Kevin Stefanski to make this offense as effective as possible. And all they went through last year in terms of injuries with Nick Chubb going down, Deshaun Watson getting hurt multiple times, ending up with the crazy end of the season with Joe Flacco before falling on their face in the postseason against the Texans. And we know it's going to be tough. This is the toughest. The Browns play in the best division in football in the better conference. It's going to be very hard. Not only as talented as I think the Browns are, it's going to be hard to make the playoffs. No team in the AFC North, I think, is a sure thing to make the playoffs. They all got a good shot because they're all good, but nobody's a sure thing. That division could finish in any order. And if you dispute that, you're just being a homer. I mean, it may not turn out that way, but on paper, you can make an argument for the division finishing in any order. Now, My last argument would probably be for the Steelers winning the division, but it's not crazy. They've shown you time and time again. I'm sick of counting them out. I'm not sick of it. I wish I could continue to count them out. I'm not going to count them out before the season, especially when now they at least have, he may be the worst in the division, but at least a credible, somewhat credible starting quarterback, and not the joke at the position that they've had the last couple of years. The Browns are as talented, if not more, than any other team in the AFC from top to bottom. And we could talk about Deshaun Watson, which I've done a million times and will continue to do so a million times. The ceiling for the Browns is solely about him. Yeah, sure, there's Nick Chubb getting back, and there's the health of the team. Everybody's dealing with those type of things, not Nick Chubb specifically, but health. Everybody's got to deal with, can you stay healthy? Are your key players going to stay healthy? But the Browns' ceiling will be determined by how good Deshaun Watson is. It's that simple. So if we assume the Browns are going to throw the ball at a higher percentage this year than they ever have, or at least than they ever have in recent years, then the key to the season is keeping Deshaun Watson healthy, something that's been a little tricky since he's been in Cleveland. It's not for lack of talent on the offensive line. Once again, they had injuries. Some of it is Deshaun Watson's athletic ability and his ability to get out of the pocket, and that creates a level of risk. You know, he's not Josh Allen in terms of size or Patrick Mahomes. These guys get hit. It's just, you know, I'm sure it takes a toll somewhat, but Deshaun Watson's not nearly as big as those guys. And especially Allen, because Allen was with Ken Dorsey last year, so I think that's the good comparison. We know that Deshaun Watson at his best is a special quarterback, or we knew that. That's why the Browns traded for him. They didn't trade for him for people to con themselves into believing his 4-1 record is because he was so good. They traded for him because he was so good in Houston. And so far, for a variety of reasons, he hasn't been good here, but he controls their ceiling. So to me, one of the most important things this season is, beyond the obvious that Deshaun Watson needs to play great, it's that the rest of the team needs to keep Deshaun Watson healthy. And that's help from everybody, especially the offensive line and especially the coach. And I know that Deshaun Watson's ability to get out of the pocket, to be mobile, to run at times is a part of his game. I just think, you know, in Buffalo, there were a lot of quarterback runs with Josh Allen when Ken Dorsey was the OC. Now, there was less of it this past season. Josh Allen ran a lot more after Dorsey left, but in the previous seasons with Dorsey, he had run a lot. To me, I'd mostly have that out of the playbook. Yes, there are going to be times where Deshaun Watson is going to need to use his great athletic ability to get out of the pocket. He's in trouble. Let's get out of the pocket. Let's go. But for the most part, I think I want to keep Deshaun Watson within the pocket or throwing the ball, you know, even if he's moving to extend the play to throw the ball. But the Browns have to do whatever they can to protect Deshaun Watson. And in the end, you know, you can't put him in bubble wrap. I mean, he's going to take some hits. But the more you can protect him, the better. The less hits he takes, the less the chance there is he's going to get injured. The Browns can't win a Super Bowl. You can convince yourself of anything when you're a fan. But here's the reality. The Browns can't win a Super Bowl with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They can't win a Super Bowl with Jameis Winston. They can't win a Super Bowl with any other quarterback besides Deshaun Watson. And I don't even know if they can win it with Deshaun Watson, but the Deshaun Watson that I saw play for the Houston Texans, with the talent that's on this Browns team, they can win a Super Bowl. And the only way we're going to get a chance to find out if that guy still exists is if they keep him upright. That's it. You want to con yourself into believing this team can win a Super Bowl with Jameis Winston. Good luck with that. You could survive some games with Jameis Winston. Nice backup. He can bridge you. Can't win a Super Bowl with him. Deshaun Watson, Houston Texan version, or somewhere close to it, is it. Because the gauntlet you have to go through just to get to the Super Bowl is insane. And the truth is that the lead dog, the two-time defending Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, are most likely going to have home field advantage because their division, unlike the division the Browns in, stinks, at least on paper. Raiders mediocre at best. Chargers should be better because they have a better coach, but they got a long way to go talent-wise. Broncos stink. It's going to be a lot easier for Kansas City to pile up the wins than Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or Baltimore. That's just the way it is. And New England took advantage of that for years with Tom Brady. Not only were they good, not only was he great, but they were also in a bad division. It allowed them to pile up wins, and it looks like Kansas City has that advantage this year as well, certainly over the AFC North. So odds are you're going to have to beat Kansas City in the playoffs on the road, most likely. Crazy things have happened, but most likely. You got no chance to do that without Deshaun Watson playing at his highest possible level. But the good news is that the Browns are one of the few teams that, if their quarterback is playing at their highest level, can actually beat the Chiefs, in my opinion. And there's not many. But the Browns are one of them. We just need that guy, and we need him protected. All right, thanks to everybody for joining me, as always. Once again, I want to talk to you about the BetRivers app before I take off here, because it's fantastic. The app is great, and if you love to play parlays, as so many people do, get the oh-so-close parlay insurance during the NBA playoffs. If you place a parlay of 4 or more legs on an NBA playoff game each day, you get part of your stake back in bonus bets if you're exactly 1 leg short of hitting your parlay. So you bet a 5-leg parlay, you get 4 right, you might get that insurance. The insurance is valid on your first NBA parlay of the day. See the BetRivers app for more details and to see how much stake back you're eligible for. Thanks to Monzo for producing. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button, not only on YouTube, but also if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, wherever you're listening. I appreciate it. Love you all. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. See you, everybody.